Good.
What should Americans expect these next 2 weeks?
Well, it has to be real intense negotiations. Look, what are we dealing with right now? In 2.5 weeks, the federal agents in Minneapolis killed 2 Americans. We've seen abuses all across the country, racial profiling, just in general lawlessness that's being done by ICE agents. What we need to see is a real serious effort by Democrats and Republicans to rein in ICE. Because what they're doing right now is not law enforcement. It is just suppression of U.S. citizens in their hometowns.
What are your sticking points for a future DHS funding bill? Because, and I will underscore, you voted against this, this situation right here. So why were you a no? And then what will get you to a yes?
Look, I have a very high threshold because I've dealt with these types of situations. I've been in combat, I've been in cities, I've been, trained in riot control, and I've seen how these guys are acting, and they're just absolutely acting, without any level of professionalism. So my threshold has to be very high. It's going to be something like warrants for people going out, targeting real criminals, having to end any racial profiling status or efforts. In terms of being able to go into people's homes, you have to have home warrants again. You can't just be breaking people's homes. There's a lot of things that have to be reformed. Right now, I'm not seeing that they're going to be able to do that because there is a culture that was started by Stephen Miller that has really permeated through these groups of guys, largely guys, and I don't think it's going to go to any time. They're grabbing men off the street, giving them 6 weeks of training, giving them a weapon, and then letting them loose on our cities, making them feel as if they're in a war zone. That's not what you do when you're trying to tamp down what's happening in this country.
Alicia has been literally beating the drum on the fact that Stephen Miller is a very important piece here. Alicia, what I just heard from the senator, it doesn't seem unreasonable. I mean, Senator, you say it's a high threshold. These seem reasonable things to me that should be happening in line with the law, but I'm a lay person.
I mean, Senator, your ears must have been burning all week because all week I have been referencing your tweet about no DHS funding until Stephen Miller resigns or is removed. And I think you're getting it exactly right, which is so long as a xenophobe is in place inside the White House and is pushing nativist policies from inside the White House and has the ear of the president, I am struggling to understand how these restrictions on DHS are actually going to get DHS, ICE, CBP to act in accordance with the law. There are restrictions right now. They are violating those restrictions every day. Have you talked with your Democratic colleagues about this? Do you think there is enough energy? I mean, I know there's the energy around Nome, but can you also get that same energy around Stephen Miller, understanding, of course, that you do not have the same capacity to impeach Stephen Miller as you do Secretary Nome?
I do think so. Look, at least when we can have like a public PR push on this man, he is the cause of all of this, right? You have a lot of, ICE agents, Border Patrol that are in these cities. They're being told you have immunity. You could do whatever you want. We're going to back you 110%. Without accountability, in this very dangerous situation, sometimes very high intense situations, you're going to have what you're seeing in Minnesota, what you've seen in LA, where these men feel they could just rough handle people. In Arizona, we just saw, an ICE agent or Border Patrol agent just driving by, rolling down his window and pepper spraying protesters that were not even in the way of the car. Right, so there is a culture that's been permeated, starting, with Miller. It was including Bovino that has totally gotten into the system of ICE, has gotten rid of professional law enforcement, and we need to, really start at the top, get rid of Miller, and then maybe there's some hope for actually bringing us back to real professional immigration enforcement.
Senator, literally just this hour, our colleague Laura Barron-Lopez is reporting that ICE is now eyeing Ohio, Springfield specifically, targeting 12,000 to 15,000 Haitian immigrants. Of course, their stories came to the forefront during the 2024 presidential campaign, but also this week, out in Arizona, there were ICE operations or Department of Homeland Security operations across 15 chain restaurants in which I'm told tonight the Department of Homeland Security detained 35 undocumented individuals. How, out in Arizona, and how are you having a conversation with your Democratic colleagues while this debate is ongoing about how you guys are effectively able to work with local and state entities to try to best be there for the undocumented population in your own community?
Well, from what we're hearing, what happened with the Zips restaurant was that it was following these warrants. They had some level of professionalism, but afterwards is where it all goes wrong. When people show up looking curious, instead of dealing with the situation, trying to tamp down the situation, you had CBP and ICE basically start pushing back, deploying tear gas. using overwhelming force in a time where they should actually be trying to bring down the tone and tenor of what's happening. Talking to the different groups, it's not just undocumented people. I just want to make sure people understand what's happening here, which especially in Arizona. People are worried about anybody that is brown, because we've lived this before, right? We were the people that had to fight off Sheriff Joe Arpaio, SB 1070. We know what happens when you empower law enforcement to go after people just based on color. They're going to go after all the brown people. And that includes our Native Americans. Native Americans have been pulled over and have been held and detained in Arizona because, some untrained ICE or Border Patrol agent has assumed that they were in this country illegally. And many of them do not carry birth certificates because of the nature of how they're born and raised on the reservations. This is what people are worried about. We know that this can go out of hand in Arizona because it has gone out of hand before. And it's not a question about citizens versus undocumented. It's just us wanting rational law enforcement versus what ICE is trying to do right now.